It was January 1st in the morning when I asked, a little kidding, "Where's my gift?" My mother laughed, like a joke. According to her, Santa Claus leaves nothing to those who don't know how to be grateful. I just shook my head and left. Hours later, the phone picked up. They needed 5 million rubles to save the ruined house. My answer: ask Santa Claus help. But let's get down to business. My name is Alexandra, but everyone calls me Sa. I am 32 years old and I work as a back-end developer at a large IT company at Akademgorodok in Novosibirsk. My salary? Excellent. White, official, well above average for my age group. Theoretically, I should feel privileged. But over time, I began to question, has having money turned me to the preferred target of the problems of others? My family is small, but enough to exhaust any patience. My parents, Angelika Yurievna and Viktor Andreevich, have passed the 60 and live in retirement. He, former master of works, spent his life in flower beds. She, former secretary of a law firm on Sovietskaya Street. Retired, they see the power of purchasing income to see each year, while inflation devours any readjustment. There is also my older sister, Lisa or Elisaveta, for documents, married to Maximum. They have 2 children, Igor, 15, and Mila, 13. Okay, this is the portrait of the family. And guess who they turn to when the accounts squeeze? Exactly. It all started 6 years ago, when I was still crawling in my career. An innocent phone call: "Sarenka, love, this month is difficult. Could you help us with the electricity bills?" Of course. After all, it was my parents. They created me, gave me a ceiling, food, education. How to deny? But that was just the beginning. Soon came requests for groceries, expensive medicines for my father, repairs on their width. My sister entered the dance. First, new tires for the Max Patriot, then a monthly fee of 80,000 rubles for Igor to take a IT course. Always something urgent. Always something indispensable. The worst. The flow was unidirectional. When I needed help, everyone disappeared. I learned this in practice 8 months ago, when it comes to moving. After years of saving to get out of rent at Kropotkina and finally have my corner, the day of change approached, and with him, the mountain of boxes that I would never carry alone. I called Lisa. Could Max give me a hand? Just 2 hours to carry the van and unload there. He even raped at first. But 2 days earlier, my sister called me with the lame excuse: "Sa, on Saturday. Max won't be able to. Sick." No, okay. We just think you should solve your problems alone. Hire porters. We have our family to take care. Ready. End of history. I ended up paying 30,000 for a change team that was not in the budget. I didn't complain. I didn't argue. I just swallowed dry and did what they sent me. But that dialogue was iron-marked. Even so, I kept helping. Every month, without failing, groceries for my mother, medicines for my father, repairs in the Nissan of the sister, football boots for Igor, notebook for Mila. Always something. Always for yesterday. And I gave in, because it was easier than listening to complaints. Easier than fighting. And deep down, still fed a foolish hope, that at some point they would realize that I was more than a walking wallet. That I was also part of the family. Until, at the end of October, I decided to appear for a family dinner. It had been weeks since we had seen each other. I thought it would be good to get together. I arrived and there were all: Lisa, Max, the nephews, my parents. The table posted with chicken soup and potato with meat, the usual menu. But the mood was weird since the first fork. My mother and my sister chattering non-stop over Mila's performances at school, Igor's football games. The couple's vacation plans. They asked Lisa's work, the Max projects, the dreams of the grandchildren. About me? Silence. Neither a word about my job at Sibersoft, nor about the new home I had bought. My father coughed light. My mother looked at him. He looked at her. And I understood. They were wearing something. She dropped the fork, turned to me with a smile too wide to be sincere and let out: "Sarenka, honey, we talked here and decided, we need a house in the countryside. A place where the whole family can gather, rest, enjoy the air." I looked around. Lisa Nostia. Max nodded. Even the nephews smiled, as if it were the best idea of the century. Only I seemed to have fallen from parachute. A house in the countryside? Now. Mom, 6 months ago you almost lost the house that have because of the crack in the foundation. It is called compromised foundation, remember? The engineer said it was urgent to reinforce. Wouldn't it be logical to fix what they already have before dreaming of something new? She pushed her hand away, as if she was amazed and uncomfortable fly. Ah, silly. The house is standing, isn't we? We need to think about quality of life. Fresh air, space for children to play. And then the bomb came. That's why we want you to buy this house for us. I was paralyzed. What do I buy? Yes, you. After all, it's the only one in the family that can play. Mom, I'm paying a mortgage. I don't even have for the entrance of another property. Her eyes shone, she clearly waited for this objection. I've even found the perfect house. 16 millions. Entry is only 20%, and the installments? One bargain, 90,000 per month. 16 millions. As if it were change. I looked around again. My father watched, expectant. My sister had crossed her arms, staring at me like I were a Bustairs child. Max agreed with his head. Even the nephews awaited my answer. I can't buy a house for you, I said slowly. I have my own mortgage to pay. She leaned forward, insistent. 90,000 a month, sir. Just that. You pay 120 in your. What are 90? I won't take a funding for a house where I won't even live, I said firmly. I won't go. Point. The air in the room frozen. My mother's face hardened. Well, now we know how you treat your family. My father added, with a loaded voice, we thought we could count on our daughter. What disappointment, Alexandra. I took one last look at the table. Everyone stared at me like I was the worst human being on the planet. There was nothing else to argue. I think it's time for me to go, I muttered. I think so, she said. No one got up to accompany me to the door. No one said goodbye. I drove home on the Birdsk Highway with the feeling of losing a family that was actually never really mine. Because family doesn't do that. It does not transform affection into a currency of exchange. It does not require what it does not deserve. And for the first time, I understood that saying no was not selfishness, it was survival. 2 months have passed since that dinner. And for the first time in years, I breathe relieved. 2 months. 2 long months when my phone remained mute. No my mother's call for money for shopping, no message from my father about medicine, no panic attack from my sister because I was needed a new or Mila uniform from something to school. The strangest. Not even Lisa tried to ask for money. For her, this was almost a ritual. At least twice a month, she appeared with some emergency that, of course, only I could solve. But this time, nothing. Absolute silence. Christmas passed without an invitation. I spent my holidays alone in my apartment, eating a Japanese restaurant, watching the series and pretending that I didn't expect, in some corner of my mind, that my mother would call and say, "Oh, okay, we were kidding. Let's come." But the phone remained silent. When Christmas is. It approached, a stubborn hope began to sprout. Maybe at that time they had reflected. Perhaps they had realized that they had demanded too much. Christmas, after all, has always been sacred to us. Would they leave a silly fight to spoil the date? I went shopping and chose gifts, not any gifts, but good things. A new tablet for my father, whose old device barely worked. A wool sweater of a national brand that my mother would love. For Lisa, a niche scent from the store she admired so much. Casio clock for Max, gamer's headset for Igor and, for Mila, a music box she had mentioned once, almost in passing. I spent almost 150,000 rubles, much more than usual. But I wanted to prove something, I still cared. Who still wanted to be part of that, even being unable to play a house for them. A week before New Year's Eve, I was finally dared to call my mother. The heart beat so hard that I could hardly dial. "Hi, Mother. It's me, Sasha." "Ah, hello, Alexandra." Her voice was neutral, neither hot nor hostile. "I wanted to know. Let's spend New Year's Eve together, as always?" A pause. Yes, let's pass. Yes, Sasha, you're invited. You're a family. A wave of relief invaded me. It was not the most affectionate conversation of my life, but at least they called me. At least we would pass the turn together. Maybe everything would go back to normal. On the 31st, I carried the car with the gifts and went to my parents' house. Nissan of Lisa was already parked in the backyard. When I entered, everyone was there, my sister's family, my parents. The house smelled that baked van with apples that only my mother knew how to do. I put the gifts under the tree. There were already some boxes there, but it was obvious, mine were much more in quantity and quality. At the table, everything seemed almost as before. My father asked of the work. Lisa told about Mila's presentation at school. Max, honestly, seemed happy to see me. We laughed, we talked, as if nothing had happened. No one mentioned the house in the countryside. The offenses had apparently stayed behind. Dinner was so good that when my mother suggested that I would be to sleep in my old room, I accepted without hesitation. It was nice to be back where I grew up. For the first time in months, I felt that everything could finally settle down. The next morning, January 1st, I woke up with a docile expectation. For the first time in years, we were all gathered around the tree, pajamas and robe, as when we were children. Everyone opened the gifts, thanked it. I watched, happy to have been able to please them, until he noticed something strange. All present had already been opened. And mine? There were none. I looked under the tree. Nothing with my name. Where's my gift? I asked. The silence that followed was so dense that you could cut with a knife. Everyone stopped what they were doing. They exchanged looks. And then, they started laughing. My mother was the first to talk, still laughing. Santa Claus does not bring gifts to ungrateful children. It was like a punch in the stomach. What? Lisa got up, smiling with malice. It's your fault, Sasha. You refused to help your family when we needed it. That's what happens. My father nodded. Really? We created you, Alexandra. We gave you everything. And when we ask for help, you turned our backs. Ingled children don't deserve Christmas gifts. There I was in pajamas, surrounded by the expensive gifts I had bought myself, hearing them explain why I didn't even deserve a card or a cheap souvenir. I wanted to scream. I wanted to list every account I paid, every problem I solved each time I ran to help them to the first call. But looking at those faces, I knew it would be useless. For them, I was the villain. The ungrateful daughter who didn't give them a house. Okay, said softly. I got up and went to my room. I changed clothing. I'm sure they were in the room, commenting that horrible person I was. When it leaves, no one said goodbye. No one tried to hold me. On the first day of the year, I left my parents' house with a decision made: enough. No more their ATM. No more the floor cloth. From that moment, they solved their own problems. For the first time, I didn't transfer money to anyone. For the first time, my salary was entirely mine. I saw my savings account grow every month, an amazing feeling. I forgot how much I really earned when I didn't give the family half. I started to pay more on the mortgage. Instead of the 120,000 minimums, I deposited 180,000. At this rate, I would pay off the financing in 10 years, not in 30. The idea of being free of debt at 50 filled me with a lightness I had not felt for years. I did things that I postponed for decades. I bought a new sofa for the living room, took the car for a full review, booked vacation in May, a week at a hostel in Altai, on the banks of the Katun River. Real vacation, not just a cheap weekend. Their silence was almost comic. Lisa, who once called at least twice a month asking for money, disappeared. My mother, who always made me feel guilty about shopping or medicine, didn't send a single message. It was enough to stop banking them so that they forgot that I existed. A part of me expected it to be so forever. Who had learned to turn around. Let me finally leave me alone. But deep down, I knew, people like them don't change. They only expect despair to become so large as to swallow pride. And that moment has come. At the end of March, after 3 months without contact, the phone rang. I was at work, correcting mistakes before a release, when I saw her name on the screen, Mother. For a second, I thought not to answer. But curiosity spoke louder. Hi, Sasha. Her voice was sharp, distressed. Thank God you answered. What happened, Mother? It's the foundation, Sasha. His collapsing. I leaned back in the chair. That foundation. The same thing I had warned years ago, when they insisted that I bought a house in the field instead of reforming what they had. What happened exactly? I asked. The crack has become a huge hole. Everything is ripe. We called an engineer. He said it's dangerous to live here. We need to reinforce urgently, otherwise the house collapses. I could almost hear the panic in her voice. In the background, my father shouted something in response. How much will it cost? I asked, already predicting the answer. How much? I asked, although I knew the answer even before the sentence was finished. The break on the other end of the line was enough to confirm what my instinct was already screaming. 5 million, Sasha. Her voice trembled, but not of emotion, of an urgent calculated. 5 million to redo the entire foundation. And we need it now. Right now. Ah, so that was it. The real reason for the phone call, hidden behind crocodile tears and dramatizations about losing family home. Mother, why are you calling me because of that? My question was cold, almost clinical. Because you have economies. We know you have. You have to help us. Almost laughs. Almost. After those months of radioactive silence. After that humiliating Christmas, when they left me without a gift as punishment for not having bought such a country house that they wanted. After the jokes about urgent children as I played dinner, the gifts, the bills they forgot to pay. And now, suddenly needed my help again. Mom, remember what you told me at Christmas about ungrateful children? My voice was a wire of steel. It seems that this is your problem, not mine. Alexandra Viktorova doesn't talk to me like that. Her tone has risen, authoritarian, as if the simple fact that my mother gave her the right to demand obedience. I am your mother. Exactly, I confirmed, dryly. You are my mother. And at Christmas, you laughed in my face and said I was ungrateful. You punished me for not bought such a dacha that you wanted so much. He made a point that I was the only one without a gift. At the time, you were hurt because of the house in the countryside. But this is different. No, Mother. It's exactly the same thing. You showed me what is my value for you, the size of my bank transfer. So you know what? Ask Santa to find your foundation. Perhaps he is more generous with ungrateful parents than with ungrateful children. Sasha, please, you can't let us lose your house. The despair in her voice was almost comic if it wasn't so pathetic. You should have thought about it before. Before they treat me like garbage. I hung up. My fingers trembled slightly, but not guilty, with deep, almost euphoric satisfaction. For the first time in my life, I had planted firmly before her. For the first time, I didn't give in. The phone rang again. I ignored it. Touched again. I ignored it again. And once again. 6 calls in total that day, all ignored. Then came the messages, Sasha, please call back. We need to talk. It's not just about money, it's about family. And the icing on the cake, his father had a panic attack because of stress. Please help us. I deleted everything without answering. At night, when I arrived at work, I found a voice message from my sister. I almost deleted without listening, but the curiosity was stronger. Sasha, it's me. Lisa's voice sounded artificially calm, as if reading a script. Mom said you hung up in her face. I can't believe you are so cruel. It's no longer about Christmas. They can lose the house. Our house, Sasha. Where do we grow? Where are all our memories? I could almost see her condescending smile as I recorded it. I know you are angry, but you have to overcome it. Family is sacred. You know that. Family is sacred, repeated, as if these words had some weight coming from her, the same person who told me to solve my problems alone when I needed help to move. How touching, I thought, serving a glass of wine. Family is sacred, when you are appropriate to you. I sat on my new sofa, beautiful, comfortable, in an apartment that, in 10 years, will be totally mine, without debt, without eternal mortgages. And for the first time, I didn't feel a drop of guilt. They made their choices at Christmas. They showed, bluntly, where I was on their priority list. Now it was time to reap what they planted. The crack in the foundation I had warned years ago finally opened. If they had heard me then, instead of insisting on those expensive whims, they might have money to fix before everything turned into a 5 million emergency. But no. For them, it was easier to blame the daughter who refused to play their mistakes once again. I thought my no on the phone had put an end point. I thought that they would finally understand that I was no longer their electronic box. But I was wrong. They would not give up so easy. The next night, when I got home, I found 3 figures standing before my door: my mother, my father, and Smooth. An ambush. I almost turned my back and left, but it was late. They saw me coming down the hall. "Sasha," called my mother, with a tense smile that didn't come to the eyes. "We need to talk." I sighed and approached. "What are you doing here?" "We came to get you into reason," my father said, crossing his arms. "Since you do not answer the calls." I opened the door, knowing that this conversation would happen, whether I wanted it or not. They entered, looking around as if they were inspecting my life, jumping every detail as they pretended to desperate. "What do you want?" I asked, without even offering a place to sit. Everyone started talking at the same time. My mother cried about losing the house. My father repeated that I owed ISS. To them as a daughter. Lisa spoke about family loyalty and how cruel I was. "Arrives," I cut, with a firmness that silenced them. "One at a time." My mother stepped forward, tears dripping over her face, a well-rehearsed show. "Sasha, daughter, we are desperate. The foundation is getting worse every day. The engineer said that if we do not strengthen urgently, the house can collapse. If the master beam cracks, everything goes down. So reinforce," I answered, simple. "With what money?" My father exploded. "We are retired. How does everyone do? What does everyone do? Sell things, take a loan, turn around. You have 2 hands, 2 legs and a head. 6 years paying their bills, hundreds of thousands played outside, and now I was the villain for saying no? Alexandra, please," my father lowered his voice, as if it were moving me. "We created you, we gave you to eat, we dress you, send you to college. You owe us that." "I've paid this debt 6 times, I answered, looking into his eyes. 6 years transferring money while you treated me like a faceless bench. And when I said no, you punished me. They left me without gift at Christmas, laughed at me, called me ungrateful. My voice didn't train. What was more painful, your humiliation or hypocrisy pretend to care, while just wanted my money?" Silence. They exchanged glances, looking for a new strategy, a new way of making me feel guilty. "Sasha," my mother tried again, softer. "You are a successful person. 5 million for you is nothing. You earn well, you have no children to support. Can afford to luxury." And there it was again. Because I'm single. Because I have no children. Therefore, my money is not mine, my needs do not matter, my future has no value. "Exactly," I confirmed. "I earn well and I will save that money for me." My mother poured out, as if I had committed a heinous crime. "Want to know what I do with my money? I pay my early mortgage to be free in 10 years. I keep it for my retirement. Planning a trip to Altai. I live my life without having to live because of your crises. How can you be so selfish?" Lisa exploded, her eyes sparkled. "What a blatant." "I saved them for years," I answered, without raising my voice. "And you? When was the last time someone here asked how I am? When was the last time they cared about something in my life other than my bank account?" They looked at each other, unbeliever, as if I had lost reason. "This is ridiculous," my mother said. "We will not leave here until you agree to help." "So they will stay a long time," I answered. "Because I won't change my mind. I want you to leave. Now." They stood for another minute, maybe waiting for me to give in the last second. But when they saw that it would not happen, they finally went to the door. "This is not over," launched my mother over the shoulder. "Yes," I answered. He finished. After they left, I sat on the couch and waited. I knew what would come next. And, as planned, in the following days, my phone has not stopped ringing. First, Aunt Valia, Sasha, your mother told me about the foundation. You have to help. It is family. Then my cousin Myron, Sasha, there are only 5 million. For you, this is change. Even my uncle Sergey appeared in my work, with that look of theatrical disappointment. I can't believe you. Leave your own parents homeless because of money. That was the phrase my uncle Sergey hurled like a verdict, as if I had kicked a dog on the street. But the worst of all was Aunt Lena, who appeared at my door with the Bible in her hand and the sermon at the tip of her tongue, ready to teach me about the fourth commandment. If you care so much about honoring father and mother, I cut before she started, why don't you donate the 5 million yourself? The silence that followed was so dense that you can cut with a knife. She came out faster than she entered, as if the floor burned. By 5 m, the calls stopped. The messages, the visits, the grocery favors, everything evaporated. It spent a month. No one in the family gave a sign of life. Until, one day I bumped into Nina Semenovna Petrova at Maria Ravskaya, my parents' neighbor since I was a child. Always smiling, always with a candy or advice on the sleeve. Sasha, she exclaimed, as if she had seen me yesterday. I heard the problem of the foundation of your parents' house. They sold the Wids and the old boat Progress. They got about 2.5 million. Then they took a loan to cover the rest. I was surprised. They had really solved a loan. The foundation is reinforced, Nina continued, proud as her work. The Rostrigi did the job, took the house out of the risk list. But her parents, here she hesitated, as if weighing the words, they are still furious. They say you abandoned them when they needed it. Good for them, I said dryly. At least they proved they are capable. She looked at me like I had spoken in code. Sasha, at their age, will spend years paying this loan. I shrugged my shoulders. For that there are banks. I left the market with the shopping bags swinging in the arm, chewing those words. They had found the money. They sold what they had, they got into debt just as I suggested. They didn't need me. They never needed. They just wanted me to be the easy solution, so they wouldn't have to give up anything. And me. I just stopped being their vault. That new year, when they humiliated me in front of everyone, was the last act. They showed that my value by ruble value, not affection. So I stopped paying the price. Now my phone is silent. My savings account, no. I have friends who want me for who I am, not for what I can play. I have the gym in Akademgorodok, the trails at Zayltsovsky Bor, the bookstore at Krasny Prospect. I have plans. I have a future that, for the first time, does not revolve around the financial holes of others. And I don't feel guilty. Not at all.